It was the most brutal weight cut I had. I mean, it was. I mean, the most I've pulled off like 17 in a day. I mean, this was like pretty close to that actually.
Jesus.
Not when I say a day, I mean 24 hours. Not like 7
Yeah.
I mean, this was about 7 pounds, but 7 pounds I already had cut from like 65. I'm holding it. I'm holding it there. So the cuts so it's 20 pounds, but I'm holding it the whole time. Like I didn't plan to hold it that long. Yeah, and then I had like an hour 15 weigh in, and then I ended up beating the guy who won. And then,
holy shit.
Then they got me a freaking Das Boot beer. like here, you don't go wrestle like Penn State or Iowa something after the match. Like you go to the back locker room, there's beer. They're like, hey Dave, go to the locker room. I'm like, oh, why? They're like, we got you a beer. I was like, okay. And it wasn't just like a normal glass of beer. It was like enormous. And it was a boot. And then we had food after and stuff. But it was one of the coolest experiences. But the weight cut was insane. And then actually I told them too, I said, I'm not going to warm up. This was like an American thing I learned. I was like, I'm not going to do the warm up after weigh-ins. I'm like, part of me cutting the weight, and it was like down to the last minute. I was like, this is the warm up. So I grabbed one of the guys, and he like, I was cutting weight, but I had like more weight to lose, and like that was the warm up.
Jeez, oh man, that's a lot of weight to lose in a well, not only lose it in a 24-hour period, because obviously there's a lot going on, but like the fact that you're in these flights and stuff like that, like I come out of a flight, I feel like I gain weight during a flight.
I'm trying.
It's like the water just like sucks out of the plane and enters your body, and you're like all bloated when you get off of the plane. So
thanks for adding that, because like I'm trying to articulate, because there's other stories I could tell you too where it's like and man, but like pulling off double digits weights in like a day. But that one was the hardest. I mean, it was like, again, like it was really a 20-pound cut. I got down to 6 or 7. And then it's like the flight was like 10 hours. You feel horrible.
Oh,
you can't sleep.
Surprised you didn't get sick as a dog after that, just because your immune system is being taxed.
What's the first thing you want to do after a 10-hour flight? Go to bed.
Yeah, of course.
I'm like, no, I have to go cut a bunch of weight still, and then I got to go wrestle this Bulgarian guy. Right?
But now it's a cool story because you won. Like if you would have done all that and then got your ass kicked, it'd been like,
hey, still $1,000.
Yeah,
still $1,000. Yeah.
Because I had I want to say it was sophomore year, and it was to go to regionals, right? And for whatever reason, it was because the guy that typically wrestled 135 wanted to wrestle the 119 class, so that they asked me to drop to 112. And I was like a 128 who was riding like the 3 pound over or whatever it was come time regionals come around. Yeah. So like it was like a 16-pound cut. And I remember like the night before, like this is dead winter, obviously Ohio wrestling season. And I had like the trash bags on, I had all that stuff. And I was like, I must have ice skated on the pond behind our house for like, I don't even know, like 2-3 hours, like to the point where when I got it off, like I just turned into like a huge icicle as I'm going into the house. And I was so weak. I could do like, it was a takedown match. Like the score was like 28-25 because I just did not have the energy to pick him, like to pin him, because he was so whirly and he was like a smaller kid. But I was stronger than him, so I could keep getting out and taking him down. But it was like the most exhausting thing. Yeah. For you to do all that, to travel, and then it's not like you're just taking on some regular, high school kid. That's impressive, man. It's got to be intense for sure.
That's wild.
Yeah.
What about you?
As far as a weight cut?
Yeah, biggest weight cut you remember?
Well, mine was my own fault. I wrestled.
It seems like it's always your own fault.
So I wrestled 157 all 4 years of college, and my sophomore year was the toughest cut for me for whatever reason. I just I'm a string bean. I don't typically pack on a lot of weight, but for whatever reason, at that time I couldn't do it. So I checked my weight in the morning like we all typically do, and I'm like, wow, that says 8 over. Okay, we got to compete here in the next. I think we competed at like 2 p.m. It was like there was bad winter, snow days. We're canceling matches, so we had to reschedule one. And I basically just put headphones in, same thing, threw a bunch of sweats on, got on the treadmill, checked again, sat in the, cranked all the showers in the locker room, tried to get a sweat that way, and just tried to pour it out of me as best I could. I made it, but I felt like absolute, dog crap the whole time.
You remember in high school on the way to the wrestling match, like everybody had like their gallon jug where they were spitting like the whole way to the match, like you're gonna spit out 3 pounds before you got there.
Yeah, I always tried, same thing with Dave, to stay within striking distance.
Yeah.
Don't go too far. And for whatever reason, that the night before, I only ate a piece of pizza, coach. I don't know what happened, and it was probably like the whole pizza. But.
Now, I want to know, what's the craziest opponents you have ever had to face?
The best person that I ever wrestled, his name is Nazar Kolchitsky. He's
a beast.
Oh my God,
Nazar killed me.
He was a Ukrainian age group national champ multiple time. He came over to the United States and for some reason decided to wrestle Division III. And I met him in the finals of the Wheaton tournament, which is like our version of like the Midlands or the Southern Scuffle for Division III. It's the oldest, biggest non-national tournament, and I'm always confident going in. I always think I'm gonna win, but for that match, I was like, maybe not as much, not as much. But I want to see what.
Like I'm really trying to tell myself that I'm gonna beat this dude, but I also know that this dude should be wrestling like Division I, and it plays a part, sure.
But I wanted to see what I could do against him because he was the benchmark. He was he ended up being a 3-time national champ for Wisconsin Oshkosh, I think, and that's the benchmark. That's who I have to beat if I want to get that goal. So, but he fireman carried me to my back within the first 10 seconds. I lost 13-1. Like that was a great weekend for me. I avenged like 3 losses on the way to the finals. Beat guys that I'd never beat before. So I'm riding high, and then he just ragdolls me. I'm like, well, there's the next ceiling that I need to get to.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about your experience now with Jiu Jitsu and what that looks like for Elevate as a whole. Where do you guys, what's your overall like teaching philosophy on Jiu Jitsu, and then kind of how are you gonna demonstrate the differences between like practical, right? The stuff that we drill versus real life scenarios and how you might actually apply it in a real life scenario type thing. Are you guys, is that a focus of your guys's and how so?
So as far as my experience with jiu-jitsu, I mentioned a little bit, I used it to kind of fill the void that wrestling left. I've been doing it now for a little over 10 years. And it's one, I'll never proclaim that I'm the end all be all in anything, wrestling or jiu-jitsu. I hope that people are attracted to Elevate's jiu-jitsu program enough to where world level people can come in and beat the snot out of me, so I can learn from them.
For sure.
Ego is left at the door as far as Elevate jiu-jitsu is concerned. That's a big philosophy for me. I'm currently a brown belt. I'm still working towards my black belt. So I'm a student of the game while teaching at the same time. So like I said, I'll never say that.
So you're a brown belt now.
Yeah.
Going for your black. Okay.
Yeah. But as far as like my teaching philosophy, I lean a lot on my wrestling background. Obviously, it's always there if I need it. So I'm definitely I want to teach people how to wrestle during these jiu-jitsu classes. I want people to know how to take someone down while at the same time learning guard positions, how to play lapel guard, how to do de la hiva, all the different types of guards you can play while sitting. So I think to answer your question about like self-defense versus sport jiu-jitsu, I think the fact that we have such a strong core of wrestlers at Elevate that can dictate the position. I know, Joe, you mentioned Joe Rogan's philosophy of wrestling dictates so much. Whether it's a self-defense situation or a sport jiu-jitsu situation, we have the ability to teach people how to dictate those positions. Whether if you don't want them to take you down, great. Sprawl, force them to play bottom. If they want to try to take you down, you're going to be able to defend it. And I think that applies to a real life scenario as well.
Sure.
And even if someone is, very technical, very good with, the ground game, being in whatever guard they want to, the base of a wrestler is very hard to break. And me being a wrestler, I know a few moves that can break that base. So there's been plenty of times where I've went to a jiu-jitsu tournament and been out wrestled. Someone surprised, they shoot a single leg. I'm like, whoa, I didn't expect that. They're in on my legs. So there's a few things you can do from a jiu-jitsu aspect to nullify that, to knock them off their base. And so we're going to have a good balance of wrestling and jiu-jitsu, blending it together to give people the best product that we can.
Nothing off limits, we got something to say.